Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. Today is Friday, January 15th, 2019, and we're going to be looking at a 2020 presidential election prediction between a generic Democrat and Donald Trump based off 2020 election polls. So it's not really a prediction, actually. It's just going to be based off election polling that has been taking place in a number of states. And if you're wondering why my microphone sounds a little bit different, I broke my converter that allows me to plug in my regular USB that I used to use in my old MacBook into the new MacBook. So I'm getting one in soon, so I'm just using the built-in microphone. It picks up a lot of things, so you can probably hear me putting my pen down, things like that. You're going to hear me click. I'm going to try not to get on the keyboard at all. But for right now, you guys are probably just going to be using this for just maybe 2 to 3 days and hearing this. And to be honest, the quality isn't too bad. I mean, it is a brand new MacBook Pro, so the quality should be pretty good. But yeah, so looking onto this video. Right now, we have an electoral map that it doesn't exactly favor the president. It never really did. Donald Trump, of course, winning in the states of Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin back in 2016. That was a huge thing. And it's probably not going to happen again based off the data I have right in front of me. But again, things are possible. So if you go back to when some of these polls were taken, some of them were actually taken in 2017. So the, I guess you could say, don't know the right word for it right now. But the polls, I guess, the way that you look at it, you can take it with a grain of salt. I mean, some of these were taken back in 2017. I just like making these videos because I think it's pretty interesting at just overall looking at how polling was taken, how these voters said they would vote in certain time periods, and just how the electoral map looks based purely off polling. So starting off with our toss-up map, before actually we get into the video and just starting off with the map, I'm choosing Joe Biden for a number of these polls. I want Joe Biden to be that one person in the polls that we take and use as a matchup against the president. Because right now, Biden leads in the national poll by around 7%. That's the lower end. Sometimes it's up to 20% nationwide. And that's crazy. Joe Biden is probably going to run and he's probably going to win the nomination at the end of the day unless something really changes within the Democratic Party. And that's not the easiest thing to happen. And if there was no Joe Biden option, I've decided to move on of how voters are going to vote, considering that a generic Democrat just, I guess, blankets all Democrats and puts them in Democrat and Donald Trump. That's how a lot of these polls are decided. And I do think it's pretty accurate in terms of the way that we are analyzing this data. Sorry, I had to get a drink from my water bottle. My throat is dry. But we don't have that many polls, to be completely honest with you. I believe it is a total of, let me see, 21 states that have polling data, which means that the remainder, the remaining 29, does not have polling data. So again, based off those 29 states, we're going to actually go ahead and just characterize those in after we finish all of the states with polling data and just rate them however they're normally rated in a Biden versus Trump prediction or generic Democrat versus Trump prediction. It probably won't be too different. Starting off with the first state, Arizona. These are all done in alphabetical order, by the way. Arizona shows the Democrats leading by 4%. So that's enough to put it into the, I guess you could say, lean column for the Democratic Party, 11 electoral votes. Not too surprising considering that Kyrsten Sinema did pretty well there back in 2018. But it's no guarantee for the Democrats in 2020. They will need to campaign there. But as of right now, the generic Democrat leads Donald Trump by 4%. Moving over to the state of California, you know this one's already in the safe Democratic column. Numbers fluctuating 20-30% for the Democratic candidates. No real surprise there. I mean, it is California, which always makes me wonder why they do polling in California, knowing the results are probably going to be the same every time, which they are. And, you know, that's a lot of wasted money, especially with a state that big in terms of population. But I guess these PACs and polling companies can do whatever they want. Colorado. This is a pretty substantial thing for the Democratic Party, plus 14 for them in the state of Colorado. I believe that is with the generic Democrat. That's phenomenal for them. This is a state that not narrowly went to Hillary Clinton, but 5 to 6% for Hillary Clinton. And that's not too surprising. I mean, the state was a swing state, but now it's probably not going to be a swing state. Going back to 2018, it was very much a Democratic state in terms of how it voted in almost all of its elections, governorship, not the Senate election, sorry, House elections. And then with a Senate election coming up with a Republican incumbent that is now already at risk, even though we haven't even started the 2020 Senate season, the Republican candidate for right there is at risk, which does tell you something about the state itself, and considering that they're already calling out this seat as a toss-up seat. Going over to Florida, that one narrowly goes to the Democratic Party. That it goes to the Democrats by 1%. A very close poll. That is with the generic Democrat. I believe with Elizabeth Warren, with a poll taken back in 2017, it is a +9 lead. Obviously, that's not as accurate as these are now. So right now, I'm just going to stick with the generic Democrat one. In Indiana, Donald Trump now taking his first win, leading by 6% in the state of Indiana, enough to keep it into the likely column, not lean or safe, right in between. Going over to the state of Iowa, the Democratic Party wins here by 2%, another flip, putting it into the lean column, a total of 46 electoral votes in the lean column for the Democratic Party. For Kentucky, what surprises me is that this one is close, but again, this poll was taken pretty far back. Kentucky goes in the likely Republican column with its +6 lead for the president. In the state of Maryland, again, I do not know why they do polls in states like Maryland, even though it is my home state. There's no real reason for it. The Democrats are leading by 22% here. Did you expect anything different? I don't know. But right now, same thing every single election season. Don't know why they would actually do a poll in the state of Maryland. In Michigan, the Democrats lead by 13%. That's enough to put it into the likely column. That was already a characterization that we've made with previous Democrats going up against President Trump. Minnesota, surprisingly, less in the Democratic column than Michigan, by only going to the Democrats by +10. Still substantial considering Hillary Clinton only won here by around 2%, less than 2%, to be honest with you. Minnesota goes to the Democratic Party. Now that leaves a total of, 11 states. Some of these states are pretty surprising, but it does get a little bit better for the Republican Party. But this one is not. Missouri goes to the Democratic Party by 6%, which means it goes more than Arizona, Iowa, and Florida, which is pretty surprising to me. But Missouri goes into the Democratic Party's column, going into the likely column +6% for the Democratic Party. For Montana, the Republicans lead here by 6%, which means it goes into the likely column. There is a real possibility Montana does go into the likely column in the general election, depending on the candidates. So that's also something you might want to keep watch for. Going over to the state of Nevada, the Democratic Party wins here by 7%. That's also expected considering its history and how it voted back in 2016 as well. New Hampshire is a big one for the Democrats, +14 in the state of New Hampshire for the Democratic Party, which means it narrowly fades out of the safe column and goes in the likely column. But other polls do show a safe margin for candidates in the state of New Hampshire. For North Carolina, a very new poll that came out in January of 2019 actually shows the Democratic candidate Joe Biden winning by 5%, which is enough to put it into the lean column. It's just very interesting seeing someone like Joe Biden lead there, considering that's something you really wouldn't expect. Going over to North Dakota, though, solid territory for the Republicans, +11 for them. Not exactly the best thing, but not also the worst thing. In Ohio, the Democrats lead here by 4%. Right now, we can characterize Ohio narrowly going to Joe Biden. He was the candidate on this poll. Pennsylvania is +8 for the Democrats, meaning it goes into the likely column. Again, not a good sign for Donald Trump. Checking this one off. Over to Texas, though, this is a big win for Trump. He wins here by +3%. You could expect possibly a margin that low, which is actually insane this election season. But again, nothing is a guarantee. For the state of Wisconsin, the Democratic Party leads here by 11%. That one goes into the likely column. Then we finish it off going into the state of West Virginia, where the Democratic Party is behind Donald Trump by only 3%. So it goes into the lean column, which is pretty surprising to me. But this is the electoral map based off of polling numbers. Now we're just going to fill it in how we know or think we know the rest of the states are going to go. So go ahead and characterize some of these states. Nebraska's 2nd district will put in the toss-up column for right now. Go ahead and classify the Bible Belt for Donald Trump, and then going over to the West Coast and over to New Mexico. They're already at 257. Add Illinois, they win. Add New Jersey, Delaware, District of Columbia, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Vermont. Let's see if we can center the map here. Going over to New York, that's another win. Virginia, it's another thing. Virginia would probably be a likely margin, to be completely honest with you. Georgia's probably going to go to the president, stay in the lean column, though. Probably going to narrowly win in Nebraska's 2nd district. Joe Biden will probably carry the 1st district by a safe margin, at large by a likely margin, and then its 2nd district by a lean GOP margin. So this finalizes our electoral map. 171 electoral votes for Donald Trump, 367 for Joe Biden. Thank you guys for watching this video. Comment down suggestions below, and I'll see you all tomorrow.